Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Battery Podcast with your hosts, Joe Beimel and Brent Dean. Before we get started, this episode is brought to you by Beimel Elite Athletics. At Beimel Elite Athletics, we train baseball players the right way using a data-driven, individualized approach that's built for real results. Whether you're a youth player just getting started, a high school athlete trying to get a team and a scholarship, or a college or professional looking to extend your career, we build a system that meets you where you are and takes you where you want to go. With locations in Los Angeles and Texas, plus remote training options available nationwide, our athletes get access to the same tools used at the highest levels of the game. If you're interested or serious, go to BeimelEliteAthletics.com or follow us on Instagram at BEA_Los Angeles and at BEA_Texas to learn more. Boom.
Mic drop. That was fantastic. Well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. It's nice to have it written down. But
Yeah, we'll get better at
today's
it.
subject,
Get a little teleprompter.
let's talk about velocity. It's back in the news. Like, velocity has never been important. Obviously one of the reasons we started what we're doing, I learned at an older age I needed to throw harder. I had a great year in the big leagues in 2014. 2015 was okay. Felt like I had a decent year, but just wasn't getting zero interest in 2016. And basically I just didn't throw hard enough. That's what the way the game was going. That's where everything was leading. The fastball average velocity in the big leagues was climbing, quite a bit. Now I don't even know the exact number, but I think it's over 95. Back then it was like just climbing up to like 93. So it's important. If you want to play at a high level, if you want to play in the big leagues, you have to throw hard. That's just the way it is. And honestly, that's the way it's always been. It's just, I knew as a kid, back in the 90s in high school, I was left-handed. Lefties, for whatever reason, back then had lower standards of where they had to be to like get drafted. So you basically had to be 88, 89, maybe touch 90 once in a while to get drafted as a lefty. Righties had to be throwing 90 plus. And that was hard back then. Like, I came up to the big leagues, I was topping out at 94, 95, and I was considered like a hard thrower. And now 94, 95 isn't very hard. We see all these guys, and there's all kinds of crazy theories out there that we can address in this podcast today. Some things I agree with, some things I don't, some things I think are just delusional that people are coming up with. But as we got started back in, I guess we really got started in 2018, right? That's officially 2018, but we were kind of getting things going in 2017. And pretty much everything that we've done up until that point had focused on, hey, we want to help guys throw harder. Necessarily wasn't even back then like, hey, we want to help people get better at baseball. We were just like, hey, we need guys. We gotta get guys to throw harder. And we didn't even attack like the hitting side. Everybody had to throw harder, whether you're an infielder, outfielder, catcher, and obviously a pitcher. So that's kind of what we tailored our programs to when we first started, because it was that important. And now it's still important. It has not lost importance, but it's not the only thing. With rounds, getting less rounds in the draft, different things like that. You have to be a well-polished player to even get like indie ball opportunities. Not just they're going to draft somebody or sign somebody just because they come in and they throw hard, because now everyone does. So my question to you is, what have you seen since we started, just the change in the importance? Have you seen a change in importance of velocity, or do you feel like I do, where it's maintain like a high priority, but now you have to see like more complete players. I don't know. Was that a
The
question?
first thing I think of, yeah, I got what you mean. I think the first thing that my mind goes to um, is really pitchers needing to have that baseline number that's going to catch any attention. And yeah, the game, you do have to know everything. You have to be more of a complete player. I was talking with a mid-major D1 recruiting coordinator yesterday, and that was one of the main points he brought up is obviously you can't be too light in velo if you're going to be a pitcher or really any position player unless you have high level hitting skills and some defensive prowess is really going to keep you at that level. But velo, specifically as a pitcher, 90 is no longer enough. It does kind of get you in the D1, D2 conversation, but if you cannot sustain it, then there's like a big deal about, hey, he's got potential, but I don't have time to really develop this guy. He's either too light in body, too light in velo, or just doesn't have a complete package. And D1 programs don't want to take that first year to just have you on the bench, develop you, have you run through the program. They want you to come in and be an impact right away. So I think velo has always, for myself, been pretty relevant. Like you need to throw harder to be able to be an effective defensive player, let alone an offensive player. But ultimately, for me, the first thing that comes to my mind is just pitchers needing to have the metric of what exactly they need. I don't know. What? I'm on a video. What do you need? This guy's like in the window. Okay, you can leave it there. That's great. Like
Who
just
is it?
no feel. This guy's like knocking on the window trying to get my attention. Like, hey, I got something for you. All right.
Is it like a
Oh my
UPS guy
gosh.
or something?
No, it's one of our athletes. Like he's just like
Oh,
sees me
geez.
talking. He's, oh, hey. I need your attention
No,
right
we're
now.
leaving that one in. We're not editing that out.
That's all right. That's fine. That's pretty
Yeah.
standard around here, though. Always available 24/7, even if I'm in the middle of a conversation. Come talk to me.
Yeah.
But anyways, man, yeah, I think this can go so many different ways. I think everyone has an opinion about velocity. It's sometimes taboo to talk about training it because the training dynamic does have so much nuance to it. You have to talk about strength training, you have to talk about mobility, you have to talk about mechanics, nutrition, recovery routines, and then just in-game effectiveness. If you're a pitcher, can you command it? Do you have understanding of secondary pitches? How about holding runners, PFPs, times to the plate? There's so much that goes into it. What I found, and I don't know how you feel about this, but what I found is that coaches or even players that say you don't need that, you don't have to worry about that, often just don't know how to teach it. And they don't think it's valuable
Mhm.
because either they first have had it. I've seen big leaguers say, oh, yeah, don't worry about throwing harder, just like get really good at baseball. Yeah. But unless their timeline doesn't help them push to where they're going to get opportunities and doors are going to open, you can't just negate a major tool, especially if that's going to be something you need like a pitcher. So they either just have it and don't know how to teach it, or they've never had it and they've never taught it. So they just overlook the importance of it. And they think it's such a polarized conversation to say it's either mechanics or movements or strength and velocity. And really, it's all of it. And you have to be the full package as a player if you want to have a real chance to play. Um, yeah, I mean, we've had those conversations with so many guys, and it's just a perpetual thing. I'm so glad that we have these podcasts now to start sharing some of this perspective because over the last 15 to 20 years, I'd say, the game's evolved a ton, but the need for skills and tools like velocity has always been there. Now it's just everyone at a younger age is able to do it. So having places that can teach how to sustain it, keep you healthy, utilize it, and like the windows of adaptation that you're actually supposed to be focusing on it, that's the hardest part. And that's why we've been successful with our program is first we've done it. And then second, we've navigated that for hundreds of players. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to realize that it's not one or the other. And that's where I think everybody gets the mindset where they see someone grunting and throwing as hard as they can and arms and legs flying everywhere. And they're throwing the ball off the backstop or they're walking 10 guys in a game and hitting three of them. Like, that's not what we're talking about either, because I know for myself, I throw the hardest when I throw strikes. If I throw one and let it sail, that ball's not going to be very hard because my mechanical efficiency isn't very good to throw a ball, 5 feet over somebody's head. Um, so you do have to have like that mechanical efficiency to be able to throw strikes, but throwing strikes is also a skill. It's not just something that's one or the other. You have to learn how to throw strikes as well. And I wouldn't say throwing strikes is easier than throwing hard. I mean, those two are very different things, but you can do both. It's not one or the other, as a pitcher. You can absolutely throw strikes and try and aim and throw darts in there, but what kid or pro guy or whatever, when they start aiming the ball, when have you ever seen them throw more strikes by like, throwing a dart in there and like, oh, I'm gonna throw it over the plate. It's usually you're missing everywhere if you're trying to do that. So you find when you start to just kind of throw like normal and let it go, the ball kind of goes where you want it to. When you focus on a spot. Everybody has different ways, their pre-pitch routine and all of those things. Um, so like I said, it's not the one thing or the other. And it drives me nuts right now with social media. Like, I don't even like looking at Instagram and things like that because there are just so many people that are uneducated in this area that everyone has an opinion about it. And we've talked about this multiple times on here. Oh, velocity is getting everybody hurt. No. And then you say, they're the first person to go, oh, well, Greg Maddux, look at him. He pitched and he only threw 88 or 90. Look at Jamie Moyer. And then when you say, well, look at Nolan Ryan. Oh, you can't bring up Nolan Ryan. He's a unicorn. He's like one of his kind. I'm like, well, exactly. So are Greg Maddux and Jamie Moyer. They aren't you know, they are the exception, not the norm. But Nolan Ryan was able to throw hard for a long time because he trained and he was doing things that people weren't doing at the time. He lifted weights after games, kept himself in himself. Yeah. I always say his self, and I know that's wrong. Himself in very good shape um, throughout his entire career. And then also, he had a great understanding of his mechanics and his mechanical efficiency and what he needed to do uh, to be able to maintain that. So, it's just everybody, like I said, they have an opinion on it. And I don't know if you've seen recently the amount of old players. Dude, old players drive me nuts. I'm an old player, but the guys who just sit there and bang on the game, the game's terrible now, and the players only care about this and that, and they don't know the fundamentals, and some they might be correct, right? I think a lot of times performance guys have been rushed through the minor leagues. I know I saw that after COVID when I came back and played. I think the AA team that I started that year when I came back, um, I think everybody was like in rookie ball in 2019. And then they all got pushed to AA because there was no season in 2020. So 2021, they all got pushed to AA. None of them were ready. And, they just got, uh, it was very evident that they weren't great at the fundamentals because they just weren't taught yet. So I think you're seeing a little bit of that. But with that being said, it's the guys that they complain about the game. They don't do anything to make it better other than complain. They're not out there trying to teach people to get better or teach them the fundamentals. They just want to bring up, all the bad stuff and all the things that they see that they don't agree with. But recently, there has been this stuff out there where people are saying, oh, well, the Guns, when we played, the Guns read the ball, at the plate. They didn't read it out of the pitcher's hands. And that makes me laugh, for one, because I played in both eras. That's not the case at all. That's like saying, if you get pulled over by a cop, you're going to go, oh no, your gun's a lot better now. It had me going like 4 miles an hour faster than the old guns back in, the early 2000s. So you got to give me like 4 mile an hour grace because I'm not really going that fast. I'm really only going, 80, not 85. It's like one of the most ridiculous things I've ever, like arguments I've heard. Uh, but you just sit there like, what are you talking about? Like, the gun
Yeah.
reads, it's always read out of the hand. And what's funny is I was going to do a post on this on Instagram, but then I just decided, I don't know if I even want to take the time to do this. But I have video of me from a VCR tape, mind you, um, back in like the early 2000s, my first few years in the big leagues. All of our video was on literally like a VCR tape, VHS. I guess it's VHS. You put it in a VCR. Some kids might not even know what those things are. But
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
just kind of funny because I had all the tapes, and one of my buddies has a VCR. So I'm like, hey dude, can I borrow this? Cause I want to play like my old tapes from the Pirates. So I put it in there. And there's some video of me throwing, there's a pitch, uh, a 1-2. Is it 1-2 or 0-2? I think it's a 1-2 pitch to Todd Helton. I let it eat, and it comes up 99 on the screen. And then I have a couple that are like 95 or whatever. But anyways, I slowed it down because I took a video of it with my phone when I had it on, and I slowed it down because they're like, oh, radar readings didn't read until the ball crossed the plate. And when you slow it down, the number starts to pop up like about halfway there before catcher doesn't even have the ball yet, right? Not even close, but the number of the velocity starts to pop up on the TV screen. So, the TV screen isn't automatically, it's got a little bit of a delay on it. So it's probably popping up in the stadium first and then pops up on the screen. So it's just like kind of ruins their whole point. And it's you know, we were greater back when we played than these kids. And I guess that's always happened in baseball. But yeah, I guess I don't want to keep going on a rant here, but you know, what is your opinion with people like that? Because we obviously run into a lot of people through the course of what we're doing. Um, we have a business. You have to be on social media if you have a business. We found that out. We're doing a podcast, obviously. So we know that as well as anyone. But when you see those kind of things, is it something that you just does it bother you? Like it does me. I mean, it doesn't bother me enough where I like got to comment on it or something like that. I've I've gotten a lot better at that. But is it something that bothers you when you see it, or do you just kind of like laugh and just go like, "What are these guys talking about?"
Yeah, it makes me think of maybe when we first started, um, probably 2017, 2018, putting videos of guys doing pull downs, some of the early velo progressions, things that we even were just kind of experimenting with as far as how to improve some mechanical efficiency while teaching velo to get guys to move a little bit more naturally and maybe break some of their um, taught patterns that were not really the best movements for them, especially pitchers that have done a ton of lessons and they can start getting very mechanically internally cued and they can't translate their catch play into on the mound. But it makes me think of that window when we used to get a lot of people on the internet saying like, "Oh, I could throw it that hard from that close." He's like right up against the net throwing. He's running and throwing. When does that ever happen? It was so funny because I used to try to engage all of it and try to educate. Like, oh no, this is actually how radar technology works, and this is why we're doing this. And you get people that coming out of the woodwork that are apparently experts. They they sell insurance, but they're a baseball development expert, and they've never played beyond high school. And they're like, oh no, that's not going to be useful. You got to teach him how to throw and, get his mechanics right on the mound. Like, all right, man. Like it's one of those situations that everyone has an opinion. It's very easy to have thoughts or ideas, but very few people take action on trying to make an impact. And like, yeah, I don't really get bothered by it too much. If there's someone that I feel like maybe has a pretty venerable perspective, or you know, it's someone that I highly respect for some reason, then try and engage it a little bit. But nowadays, man, you gotta post and ghost. Just throw it up there. Don't get stuck in the comments unless it's like one of our athletes that's like not really getting it. We gotta kind of filter through their thought process. But posting and ghosting might be the best policy. I used to be worse at it, start trolling people, but now I'm just like, all right, it's not worth the energy it takes to have to be right on the internet all the time. It's
Yeah.
definitely not.
Yeah, it's exhausting when you start kind of going back and forth with somebody um online, which I will once in a while, but then it I don't have to keep
Yeah.
keep up, keep getting the last word or say something. I'm just like, all right, this is what I had to say. I don't really care. And then there's something on um one of the social media things on Instagram posted. It was like a overthrown ball or something at first base, and one of the kid, like, it was hard to tell if he made like a move towards second. um but he did, like, when the first baseman had the ball, he turned towards first base, like, to turn that way instead of the other way. And that's just a huge myth, right? Like, you can't turn that way. You absolutely can. They're like, well, he didn't turn towards, like, the dugout or whatever and go back to first. He turned. And I said, well, that's not a real rule. There's nowhere in the rule book that says you have to, like, turning towards the base is like the same as making an attempt towards second. Um, and then I wrote that, but then I looked back and I was like, probably wrong. Like, the guy did kind of take like a step towards second, kind of weak step, but um, funny enough, if you watch the video, the umpire is not even looking at the runner. So how he judges that he's, calls him out because he said he made an attempt. He wasn't even looking at him. It's easy. You can look at the video and the guy's looking at the bag, and somehow he sees behind him the kid turning and running. But anyways, with that, like, I don't want to get too far off subject on social media, but so then I went back and said, well, you know what? I'm probably wrong. It does look like he did take a step towards second, even though the umpire never saw it. And the amount of people that went on there and saw the first comment, but not the second, and just told me I was wrong. And, oh my gosh, you're wrong. You're wrong. That's a terrible take. You're wrong. And I'm just like, what's wrong with you people? Like, really? Like, but then it makes me,
It's
because,
usually the
you
people.
know,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's usually the people have like private profile and they follow 10,000 people and have 50 followers, and they're just sitting there just, oh, look, I could correct this guy on something. Let me get in there and tell him my opinion. And it's always there's always that guy, man. There's always someone that's ready to
Yeah.
just like be the expert on the situation. God forbid you make a mistake or you admit that like you see some nuance in anything on social media.
Yeah. And it's funny because there were some really good conversations with people on there, but then there's just the guys who
Yeah.
didn't look at anything. But then I start being like, it starts making me mad. So I'm like, I go back, start talking shit, look up their,
Yeah.
what is their game changer, their freaking uh,
Oh,
high school preps or whatever. Look at their stats on there.
Max Preps. Yeah.
Be like,
Max
yeah,
Preps.
maybe
You
you
had
would
a
know if
18
you
ERA,
didn't hit.
buddy.
Yeah. You batted 108 in high school. I don't want to hear from
Yeah.
you, buddy. That's a good way to hurt some feelings. I've done that in the past. That's not a great thing. I'm a changed person. I don't like hurting people's feelings, but um, it's a
Yeah.
great comeback on social media. Looking up their max
Yeah.
preps
Oh.
and just burying them, and then they disappear, delete all their comments. But anyways,
Yeah.
velocity, yeah. Um,
Man.
it's
Yeah.
and
Where do you want to take that?
another
I mean,
thing.
there's so many ways to go with it. Go ahead.
Well, that's another thing where I'm seeing. the older players, same in the same breath saying, you know, we threw just as hard as guys today, but now guys today are blowing out because they're throwing too hard. And I'm just like, wait, what? You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, it
All
can't be
right.
both. Right.
So, like I said, there's I don't think you need to throw max effort every single pitch. There are some guys who do that. There's some guys who have did that when I played. I was never a max effort guy. I was throwing probably at 90 to 95%. And then certain counts, I might let one eat if I was trying to throw it up in the zone or something, throw it by somebody. But that's also one of the biggest false things about velocity too, is that's the reason everybody's getting hurt. And don't get me wrong, I do think there are people who try to train for velocity and don't know what the hell they're doing, and they end up getting hurt because, as we know, if you're doing, say, a weighted ball program, okay, and that's what everybody tries to they've tried to demonize weighted balls forever. And in reality, if you throw a ball that's heavier than a baseball, that's way less stressful on your arm. Your arm's just moving slower, for one. Two, once you release that ball, you do not have to decelerate at a high rate like you do with a 5-ounce baseball. The issue with throwing a baseball is the actual baseball. It's light, it's 5 ounces. That's why you don't see problems with a lot of NFL quarterbacks. And you can go to the motion is different, but not really. You're still throwing something overhand. An NFL football is about a pound. So you never see quarterbacks getting Tommy John because the weight of the ball is so heavy that they never have to slow it down. And they're not throwing it as many times in game as maybe a starter, but you're still throwing, um, you know, now 40, 50 times a game. So you're like a middle reliever, I guess, as a quarterback. But you think you're throwing it all the time, all the time. You're warming up in between quarters. You see those guys, they're on the sidelines throwing to keep warm, things like that. So you're throwing a football a lot as a quarterback, but they never get hurt. So I think that's, pretty, I don't know if people still believe that. Um, the issue with weighted balls is if you're doing something like a pull down and you're throwing it at 100%, what happens is you're increasing your range of motion. So we know, like, if you're cranking the catapult back and you're able to get a little more external rotation, same as a catapult, if you pull it back a little farther, it's going to go a lot farther. Same thing with your arm. If you're lacking range of motion and external rotation, you're never really going to be able to throw that well. And that's why we see guys that come back from shoulder surgery that have a hard time because they lose that range of motion. Same thing with Tommy John. You lose the range of motion quick, so you have to throw a lot. When you see these throwing programs where you're throwing like hundreds of throws, it's because you have to get that range of motion back, not because anything else. Because if you don't have that range of motion, you're going to be pushing the ball and be at risk for injury again. So I think with the weighted balls, it does increase range of motion. And if you're doing a program and that's all you're doing, you're not trying to strengthen your arm to make it stronger, to get that range higher. One of the big things with, we always talk about Ryan Croton on here, but he always talks about length without strength. So if you're increasing your mobility or your range of motion, but you're not increasing strength with it, that's kind of a recipe for disaster. And that's what happens with a
Yep.
lot of these, velocity programs or weighted ball programs. And that's why they get demonized, because it's just simply the people doing it who don't really know what they're doing. They think it's an easy fix. It's like, oh, if I do a weighted ball program, I'm going to throw harder. And you might, but you also might put yourself at risk for injury, which if you can't play, then it doesn't really matter how hard you're throwing if you're hurt all the time. So there are smart ways to do it. Obviously, you're trying to do something few people can do. People are going to get hurt. Just like you're trying to run the 100-yard dash or 100-meter dash at a record that no one's ever done before. Those guys blow out hamstrings and calves and have setbacks and things like that. So it's just, it is when you're a high level athlete, those kind of things happen. And then high level athletes are all really good compensators too. So you might be lacking in one area and your body will find a way to do it somewhere else that might not be a great thing for your body. Um, but yeah, I think it's died down a little bit, but now just with all the injuries at the big league level, I think we're seeing that again. Like velocity is vilified. Velocity. Oh, people are throwing too hard. It's like, what are you talking about? Too hard? Like, there's no such thing as throwing too hard. There's like, and same thing. There's no such thing as too much fun, right? Um, but for some reason, this is kind of the issue right now, that's out there. So I
Mhm.
it doesn't. It's I think we have kind of pivoted on. I wouldn't say our marketing, but on what we prioritize because we still prioritize velocity, but it's not. It is not the end all be all. As important as it is, like we talked about earlier, we've started to kind of get the full like guys throwing coming up with a better secondary pitch or a better changeup or a better command or maybe with their arsenal and where they deliver the ball or where they release the ball. We try to come up with a plan on where they attack the zone, have a lower release height, and they're used to pitching down. Maybe we get them to start throwing up in the zone so they can have a better vertical approach angle or something like that. But yeah, what have you seen over the years? Just the change. I mean, obviously in what we're doing, but kind of in the industry as a whole. Um, I don't know if there are still, I don't know what you'd call them, like velocity schools. Because I feel like we were kind of like that for a little bit. It was a little offensive because we'd get agents would call us all the time and be like, "Hey, I got this kid. He's in Double A, and they just said he can't get called up to the big leagues because he needs to throw harder. So we got to get him in there so he can throw harder." And then the kid comes and he throws harder, and then he never comes back again. We're just like, "Well, you still got to keep training it, and
Yeah,
we
you
can help
gotta
with other
sustain it.
things."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, man, so many things to go into there. With the industry itself, I mean, if you think of high school or collegiate or professional, velocity is still very prevalent for any level. And then you obviously just have a higher demand for the other details that go into baseball. You have to be very well rounded and everything. Um, but yeah, the like reputation of being like a velocity facility or program that only really focuses on velocity, um, that was demonized too for so long, and it still relatively is by some people. We'll have, like you said, agencies that'll push guys to us, and they're like, "Hey, this guy's got to throw harder." Or like I spoke with D1 recruiting coordinator yesterday and say, "Hey, we saw this guy. He's all team or all conference team. Pitch abilities there. Just he doesn't throw hard enough. He's not going to last a D1 season." And it's like, man, so velocity is still king in a lot of areas, but it's not the only tool. And it's like what you were saying. It just gets demonized. Like, oh, they throw weighted balls, so the coach will say no one can throw weighted balls. Or, "Oh, he lifts." Well, no one can lift. He's too strong in his chest, so he's gonna be weak now at other things, and it's funny to hear all of the different perspectives that everyone's kind of, like, looking for one thing to blame. So they'll blame the weighted balls, or they'll blame the certain weight room program, or, "Oh, that facility, no, you can't do that until you're out of season because I saw what they do on social media," and it's like, that's, like, one window. The guy did that, and we highlighted it, and it's great to celebrate this guy's making, improvements. Um, but there's always the flip side, "Oh, this guy threw harder." "Yeah, but it wasn't a strike." It's like, well, yeah, he's doing a running gun, and it's like we're just trying to reach out his peak velocity and maximum potential and mapping out his mechanical efficiency. We have an understanding of workload and the mobility that he's sustaining over a certain window and how mentally he's able to manage that. And also, we're looking into his nutrition and sleep cycles and how he's dealing with adversity on his team and what kind of window he has for opportunities beyond that team that he's on right now. And so it's hard to really market that. I mean, I think of like the first time we started, we had it on a whiteboard just written in like dry erase, like ink, like need velo, like call us. So I
Yep.
got so many texts from that because it was just it was almost like a low hanging fruit. Like everyone wants to get bigger, stronger, throw harder, period. And that, I don't think that ever changes. It becomes less obvious how you can help with it when you get to the higher levels because a guy isn't 150 pounds throwing 75. They're 200 throwing 90, 91, and they're like, hey, it's still not enough. I'm below average at my level now. It was good while I was in high school or college. What was that quote we had by Walker Bueller? I think it was Walker Bueller that said, "Oh, if you never want to, never want to hurt or never want to have any pain, like enjoy your 70-mile-per-hour fastball." It's like
Yeah.
so many
Yeah.
parents have come to us, "Oh, he's never had arm issues. He's been great 100%. We've really been careful about him." I'm like, well, he's 16 and he throws 73. Yeah, I bet it doesn't hurt because he's never even pushed his body to that capability. And you're telling me he wants to
Yeah.
play D1. I'm like, well, when are we going to start pushing? He doesn't lift. He eats like he's a unsupervised little toddler. He has no consistency mentally. He's all over the place. Like I think people severely underestimate the time it takes to first acquire the skills to throw as hard as they want to. And then they underestimate the level of consistency it takes to sustain it. And I mean, that goes back to like what you were saying. We get guys to 95, we get guys to 97, or even just they PR. It's the best they've ever been. And they think, okay, well, that's how hard I throw. I've been to so many high school baseball games over the past 2 months. And they'll be, oh, this guy's like 87, 88. And I get a radar gun and in second inning, it's 81, 82. And I'm like, that's pretty common. Maybe they were 87 one time in the summer or the fall, but they think, oh, that's just
Yeah.
how hard I throw now. And in reality, they can't do it for more than 20 pitches a week. And they might still
Mhm.
hit it. And saw like a D1 commit, big guy, high level potential, 88 to 90 year before. And then this year, he's 83, 84. Doesn't look like he's really changed much and gasses out probably 3 or 4 innings into the game. And I'm like, man, I think you're about to be really confused when opportunities start getting taken from you, because it isn't just having the velocity. It's being able to sustain your average velocities, understanding where your low ends are, understanding all the parameters that go into modifying a day-to-day routine that's going to help you sustain it. And I mean, I saw it even as a catcher, and I don't want to dive too deep into this and get off topic too much, but for me, it was super relevant. Here, hold on. There goes that kid I was telling you about. Uh, the JV kids that got in a fight last night, in the handshake line, and they're both in here now, and they fought each other. I'm just like, oh my God, it's such an
So
interesting
crazy.
setup. And they're fine. I mean, they're just like, oh yeah, just their teams fought each other in a JV handshake. All right, back to topic. So for me as a catcher, I mean, I went through arm issues. We talked about that on some previous podcasts, and even recently, I'll throw, and it's like my mechanics get wonky. But if I really focus on my strength and some very limiting factors for me, um, previously limiting factors for me, it's easy to get back up and throw a little bit harder. Where it really resonated initially was I finally started doing just a breakdown of all the metrics that go into catching. So as a catcher, like, what's a relevant number for you? You guys think pop time. It's like, okay, well, what's a good pop time? I mean, you probably know it's 2.0 or below, but you'll see guys in showcases throwing 1.6s or 1.58s, and you're like, what? How is that even a thing? They're cheating a little bit. Maybe they're moving a little bit
No
quicker
chance.
or more quickly. Yeah, it's like the average in the big leagues is like 198, 195.
Yeah.
But anyways, my point was for velocity, it really started to resonate for me when I started breaking that down to it was transfer time, foot plant time, release time, and then velocity. And then ultimately, you talk about accuracy. So you could be on the bag 8 out of 10 times. If you do that, you'll throw out 50% of bad runners and 30 to 35% of pretty good runners. And maybe you miss the rest, like the guys that are just big time runners, unless you're sub 1.9. But the thing for me is I saw that I was actually like 70% more accurate and it just looked better. And I felt more confident when I would throw it harder and release a little bit more under control. So we're talking like a zero point 0.7 release versus a zero point 0.6. So not a big difference, but I would take a little bit more time to make sure I had a grip. I got my arm back in the slot that I actually thought I was trying to get to and focus on throwing it harder and more accurately through my target. And it was like an epiphany. If I release anything over 80 miles an hour, it's like I was throwing everyone out. So that's not a big difference from throwing 77 as a catch and release or 75 to 80, but it took me time to make sure I could do that. So my top end velocity on a pull down had to be close to 90, 95, so that I can quickly release at zero point 0.7 as a catcher at 80 to 83. And that was plenty good for a guy that was going to throw out a decent enough percentage. Um, Anyways, my point is velocity is one of those key aspects that you have to have in your game, but people that don't understand how to teach it, how to sustain it, or think it's just too big of a time consuming focus for them or too big of a risk usually are the coaches that are taking kids' potential and squashing it down and going, oh, no, you're good. You just have to throw strikes. But then it's a year or 2 or 3 down the road and they're like, no one's calling. I did all these showcases. I did all this travel ball. I went to high school. I played JC ball. I'm throwing 84 and no one cares. We have those conversations constantly with heartbroken parents.
Strikes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, who cares?
Yeah. And then they
it's
have a 280 batting average or above against them and they give up home runs and they're light. So anyways, don't sell your future short, guys. You got to throw hard.
Yeah. I go back to my Dodger days, 2007. We had Juan Pierre in center and Luis Gonzalez in left. And if you hit a ball into left center, it was a double because those guys had a lot of skills in other places. Great teammates, great dudes. Juan Pierre get 200 hits every single year and steal a ton of bags. Luis Gonzalez hit homers, just a good player, but they could not throw worth a shit. And they would tell you, it was almost like they were holding like a circle change grip when they tried to throw it in from the outfield. But if there was like a slow roller that got into the outfield, dudes would just run because they knew it was in that void and not one of those guys were going to throw you out. So they could have used an absolute velo program back then if they would have existed. But, you see that in the outfield, it's important. You got to be able to throw guys out. It just adds another dimension to your game, makes you more valuable. It's like if you're a shortstop, you're a middle infielder. Really? Like the best guys, you look at, I don't know if you ever watched Sean Dunston play. He was a shortstop, played for the Cubs for a long time, and then I actually played against him in San Francisco, which is totally off topic, but such a cool thing that I got to grow up and watch guys and then play against them. Somebody like Sean Dunston, which I never thought in a million years I would ever play against him, watching him as a Cub. But he was just a dude. He would throw as hard as he could from shortstop. Wham! Like, just let it freaking eat. And he was the dude known in the league with like the best arm at shortstop. And maybe he didn't have the best arm, but you thought he did because every time he threw the ball over there, he threw the shit out of it. And it was just fun to watch. It was just part of the game. And, coming up in that era, 90s, I don't know if he played in the late 80s, but definitely throughout the 90s, into the early 2000s, and I guarantee he stuck around. He could do a lot of things. He was very versatile as a player, but I guarantee his arm kept him around for a lot longer just because he could throw from anywhere on the field. So you can't tell me that it's not important. You can't tell me velocity and a good arm aren't going to get you drafted, aren't going to keep you around. And that was even when I was younger, and we'd go, to these Legion All-Star games every year. The Legion would put on, all-star games in the local areas. You make that, you go on to somewhere else. You make that, you go on to somewhere else. And then in Pennsylvania, there was the All-West game that was held at Three River Stadium. So go down there. If you make that, you go to the East-West game of everybody in Pennsylvania. That was in Harrisburg, at the AA field there. So my last year at Legion, I make it to Three Rivers. I throw there, I guess summer before my senior year of high school. I think I topped like 87 or something, like coming out of my junior year of high school. And I was like, oh my gosh, I freaking hit 87. Like, you got to be kidding me. That is awesome. But what they would do is they looked at velocity from the mound. They had guys run the 60, and they had guys throw from the outfield and from their positions. And they had radar guns on them, back in the mid 90s. It's been important for so long, and I don't know if all these guys forget that. One scout, like, scouts always had radar guns. They didn't just sit there and look and go, yeah, oh, okay, his mechanics look really, really good. I think we'll draft him. No, this guy is throwing hard. Holy shit. This guy's throwing 95. We're going to probably draft him, So it's always been important, always will be. And as a pitcher, you have to pitch, as an outfielder, you have to be able to hit. And you have to do certain things. Maybe you don't have to run fast, but if you run fast, that helps. If you have a good arm, that helps. If you can hit homers, okay, well, maybe you don't need a good arm and you don't need to be able to run fast, but you have to do something extraordinary. And with velocity now, it's like you can have all the greatest pitches, but so many guys are seeing such velo that you have to be able to keep up with them. And I'm don't get me wrong, I'm not one of these guys who thinks every pitcher's got to be the same. I think diversity in a pitching staff is really good. Lefties, righties, different. And we know now, some of the listeners out there might not know this, but the way the ball spins is important. The spin direction. If you got a ball spinning like this, you got a ball spinning like this, you got a ball spinning like this. They're going to do different things. You can throw all three types of these pitches at 95 plus, and they will cross the plate with, like, it might be 4-foot difference depending on the way the ball's spinning. And I don't know if, like, a lot of these older guys realize that like, you have balls that are straight and get a little more ride on them. They've got a little more 12 o'clock spin direction, and they're not going to lose as much. Gravity isn't going to affect them as much, to the plate. But the guy who goes like this, throws a ball like this, they release the ball on the side here, and it's got this spin like a flying saucer, that's going to kill that vertical break, and that ball is going to drop a ton when it goes to the plate. But they both can be 95. You know what I mean? And that's why I don't think they understand that's and there's been tests done and things like that where they'll put those balls on those different spin directions, shoot them across, you take a video, and it's literally like a 4-foot difference when it released from the exact same spot across the plate, So there are those things that we know about, and I don't know the general public. Obviously, baseball people who kind of do what we do or in organizations or colleges and stuff like that, they know those things. I would hope. But your general fan, those are just things that they're not very familiar with. And that's why they think like, oh, this guy threw harder than this guy. And it says he throws 95, but I faced 95 and it looked a lot harder than that. And just like, oh my God, just please stop. It's hard to it's hard to not say things when you see that stuff because someone is just blatantly wrong. Um, and that's kind of the crazy thing with social media, right? It never used to be like that before social media. Like all the people who weren't very smart didn't have their own platform, so they couldn't put any information out there. Now anybody can do it with like no repercussions of just saying dumb shit. Which I guess
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's not.
It's
Um,
great. It's great. You get to identify who the dum dums are. All right, man. This guy, I don't trust his opinion. Oh my god.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like we could probably field questions. I mean, if we had like live callers or something, or had like a Instagram live, and kind of get people's opinions or just their questions about this, because this dives into so many details. I think that velocity is such a key component for anyone's journey, if especially if they're trying to play baseball for a long time. Obviously, it gets nuanced with like how they actually go about their day to day routines, depending on what's the most relevant for them. Um, but I would love to hear anyone's opinion. You know, message us Beimel@athletics.com, or go on our Instagram and send us a DM, send us a text message. There's such a great process that happens when you just have a dialogue about this, coming from a point of curiosity, like, well, what do you think about this, or how does this happen, versus everyone having an absolute, like, they're the end all be all, like there's no other opinion that could possibly be valid because it worked for this one guy this one time, or it's how they did it when they grew up. And I think even the best people in the industry have the understanding of that. It doesn't work for everyone, and this is kind of the dynamic of this process, that you need to have ongoing evaluation and understanding, and you have to be able to identify individualistic issues that are happening throughout a season or a window of adaptation, or just like the person's issues. Um, but yeah, I agree with you on so many of these things, man. I think we could probably spend another 2 or 3 hours just talking about this off the top of our heads, let alone getting anyone else's feedback. So, if you got a question about
yeah,
velo, if you want to know more, if you want to, I mean, get some feedback for either your own or your kids or your friends' process, that's something we've been doing for decades now, it seems like. I mean, even before we started Beimel Athletics, like guys that would come in and meet us up at PV High School and like want to know what you did for your warm up routine, your recovery, and like how you were able to sustain throwing harder as we were getting older. Even for myself, I never was on that level that you were on, but I was in my 30s throwing pretty hard. And even now and then, like I'll still go back to like UCLA alumni games. I'm like, man, how do you throw that hard? I'm like, well, now it's not very good, but it's a lot of this accumulation of all the things that go into it. So
yeah.
yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. We got to probably wrap up soon. We got a short day today, but a lot of things that we could dive into. So let's leave that open for anyone that's got any questions.
Yeah, and I think even maybe sometime in the future we can have some of these guys that we completely disagree with on here, and have
Yeah,
healthy
that'd be
debate.
great.
If they would want to come on, because
Yeah,
we have our opinions and beliefs, and it's not that I believe I know everything, but I do know that this was kind of the mindset of players when I was coming up, and that's why they would get into their 30s and start to deteriorate and be done playing by, you know, 34,
right.
35, because they weren't willing to change anything or learn anything new. And that's why I always kept an open mind about pretty much everything, because I did want to play for as long as I did. And, it's just, I felt it really helped me. I mean, it helped with what we're doing now, obviously, but just helped me tremendously throughout my career to go, oh shit, I got to do something else. Like my hip hurts. Like my hip's starting to bother me, and I'm 33. Oh man, my frick guy blew out my back in spring training. Couldn't even walk to my car. I got to do something else. Like something's not working. Like why did that happen? Instead of just treating the symptoms and moving on, I was like, I got to do
Yep.
something else. Like something that I'm doing is causing this. It's not just from me playing baseball. Obviously, that takes a wear and tear on you, but it's all of the other things too that that add into that. So, learning is never a bad thing. Changing things is never a bad thing. Um, if you have some success with something, I would say continue with it. Don't just change something because you feel you got to change every couple months or something like that. Um, but if you start to get signs of like injuries or different things, and you have like freak injuries, don't get me wrong, but usually those two are caused by something. It's not just like you don't just get Tommy John. It's years and years of accumulated things. And it might not even be throwing. It might be something body alignment issue. It might be a weak hip. It might be something else that has nothing to do with your arm. And then one of the very common things I see with guys who do have surgery of Tommy John, they're like, oh, I got to change my mechanics. And it's like, maybe that could possibly be something you need to do, but it also might be something else. Could be, you know, you, could be something else that you're doing. Could be the way you're sitting, the way you're sleeping, all things we've talked about. But like you said, when it comes to
Yeah.
velocity, there is a way to do it and there's a way to not do it. If you want to gain velocity, stay
Yeah.
healthy, not to say we have the perfect system, but we have a pretty damn good system and pretty good track record
That's right.
of guys throwing harder, throwing longer, playing at higher levels, staying healthy. Um, and, the numbers kind of speak for themselves when you look at the guys that have come out of our facility and what they've been able to accomplish. And like we always say, it's all the credit goes to them because they put in the work. But, we've kind of given them the plan to follow, and it's been fun to watch. So kind of end it there. But if you do have any questions, and if you do want to throw harder or just be better at baseball, that's what I say all the time because we have so much experience in all of those aspects. And we're kind of the only place in the
Yeah.
country or even the world that has as much experience on all of those topics.
That's right. Yeah. Well, let's do it, man. You got questions?
Yeah.
Hit us up. So
Yeah. Maybe,
anytime.
like I said, I said last time we're going to do like a Q&A on Instagram to find out what questions people want us to answer,
Yeah.
but I keep forgetting to do
Oh, we
that.
should do that.
So now,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
that'd be great.
we'll
Yeah,
we'll
I think
definitely
even
put that
just
out this
we'll
week.
do I could do a little live even, just get on there. I mean, see anyone has any things they want to talk about, and then
Mhm.
throw it out there for fielding those questions and answer them here. But
Yeah.
awesome, man. Yeah, let's talk next week.
All right. Sounds good. All right, man.
All right, man. See ya.